Welcome into the top 5. Tomorrow, we'll have a special guest, top 5 presenter. Thought I would change it up for you guys. So, special guest, top 5 presenter. I'll just tease you. It'll be about TCU, so TCU fans will want to tune in to that. We'll have a special presenter who's not me. I'll be here with him, but changing things up just to try to keep it fresh here on the top 5. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Today, things to notice in the CFP rankings. Number 5. They love the SEC, particularly Alabama, who, with 2 losses, has no business being ranked above a team like Iowa State or Boise State or SMU, but they had the win against Georgia, so let's pretend like Nick Saban is still there and it's still the Alabama team. They've got 2 losses, one to Tennessee, which choked me up. No, one to Tennessee, who's number 7 in the rankings, and one to Vanderbilt, who's not ranked. That is not as punished as, say, SMU's loss to BYU, who is undefeated and ranked above Alabama. None of this makes sense, but it's the first one. But the SEC still has historical love within that room. Number 4, the Big 12 and ACC have less mulligans. We knew this anyway, but after the last couple weeks, you see Clemson way down in the poll. They're on the outside looking in. They pretty much have to win the conference now to get into the playoffs. So does Kansas State. Iowa State took a loss, and they're on the outside looking in. So the only way the Big 12 gets to is if BYU's only loss is to Iowa State and Iowa State's only loss is to Texas Tech. That's the only way that can happen. Kansas State now, like I said before, can only get in if they win the conference. So less mulligans in those 2 leagues than everybody else. Also, SMU and Miami could probably only be the only 2 teams from the ACC that got in, but it would have to mean they both win out until the championship game, and then SMU wins the championship game, and they both get in at 12-1. Number 3, Penn State has no consequences. Look, they don't have a good schedule. They just lost to the only really good team that they'll play on that schedule, and they'll probably fall ass backwards into the playoffs. I don't like this. You've heard me talk about it the last couple of days. I think it's bogus that Penn State has no consequences for being a just better than average team. That's what they are, and with all the historical bias that exists inside the playoff, why this little nugget hasn't popped in blows my mind. I'm going to stop talking about Penn State because it sends me into a blind rage. I don't get it. I get they have cool uniforms, but they don't win in big spots, and they haven't for a long time. They've got 1 big win in the last 12 years. WTF. Number 2, I'm going to get back into this. Alabama at 11? Really? Really? What do they have to do? They have less than no consequences. They're like getting rewarded here. What is going on? And I'm not one of those guys who wants to bitch about the college football playoff rankings, but sometimes I see something like this and you're like, I don't understand. I don't understand. But on the bright side, there are pathways for a lot of teams. I described some of those earlier. The ACC gets 2 in, more than likely if SMU wins out, and Miami's only loss would be to SMU. The Big 12 gets 2 wins if Iowa State wins out, and BYU's only loss is to Iowa State. So there are pathways. And there are pathways for not just one group of 5 team, for 3 of them. For Army, who's the lowest ranked one, for Wazoo, and for Boise State. Now, Wazoo needs Boise State to lose again and then win out because Wazoo's loss is to Boise State. But that's a pretty damn good loss to have overall. Now, the wins they have will not stack up against anybody because of their, skeleton schedule they had to make since the Pac-2 is the Pac-2. But there are pathways for teams that are not in the SEC and the Big Ten, but those teams have more consequences than the other 2 leagues do. But we knew that going in. But I do see some bright side coming in the college football playoff. Call me optimistic, which you never will, but this is top 5. I'm Paul Catalina. let's wrap up the show.